Welcome to Talking Out Your Glass. I'm Sean Wagoner. Over the past 55 plus years, John Luebtow has become one of the most respected names in contemporary glass sculpture. Inspired by Friedrich Froebel, the inventor of kindergarten, the artist developed innovative technical processes in glassmaking, introducing and incorporating gesture and expressive qualities into impeccably finished sculptural components. A student of Harvey Littleton, Mark Peiser, and others, Luebtow explored blown, cast, and fused glass as well as other techniques. Lois Lambert Gallery, Santa Monica, California, presented Retrospective from 1972 to 2023, a recent exhibition of work by 82-year-old Luebtow. Lambert wrote, "Luebtow has been creating art for over 55 years, specializing in kiln-formed glass, and has become one of the most important names in contemporary glass sculpture. He is most known for his innovation in the technical processes of working with glass, developing his own methods and even building his own tools for creating large-scale glass sculptures and installations up to 25 feet tall." At the heart of Luebtow's artistic philosophy is a curiosity about the processes of creation and a commitment to forging something entirely new. Luebtow's work integrates glass with architecture, becoming equal parts artistic expression and engineering endeavors. Despite his skilled background in drawing, painting, and ceramics, Luebtow ultimately has chosen glass as his primary medium, as, quote, "no other materials deal with light, line, movement, change, intensity, all things visual, as glass does, while also paralleling life, having an inner and outer self, and an internal and external presence or being," end quote. Inspiration for Luebtow's work can be found in everything that is experienced in life, pairing beauty along with the reality of life's struggles. Quote, "The events of our times, then and now, affect everything we do and are allowed to do. We are what we have experienced and what we remember," end quote. Luebtow's sculptures, though not limited to, can be categorized by two different themes: political social commentary and the abstraction of beauty. Many of Luebtow's sculptures use images of the American flag to reflect on and process political and social happenings. Other works utilize linear and geometric forms with added surface embellishment to create technically perfect investigations of beauty and abstraction. Exploring rhythm and movement of line and sculptural form, Luebtow developed his linear form series of cast and slumped glass sculpture. Working on a large scale required engineering skills to design and build kilns as large as 14 feet long by 10 feet wide by 4 feet tall to produce the elements for large-scale architectural installations. Working with float glass, Luebtow left his mark on architectural spaces in and around Los Angeles, where his studio is located, and the country. His art required the design and building of equipment and development of processes that were almost as much art as the art itself. Projects such as inventor, Ventus Vitae, and Sapere Aude were groundbreaking aesthetic and technical highlights of his career as a sculptor. Luebtow, a Milwaukee, Wisconsin native, holds a BA from California Lutheran College and 2 distinct MFAs from UCLA, one in ceramics and one in glass. Since 1966, Luebtow has exhibited in over 175 exhibitions throughout the United States and abroad, including exhibitions at Los Angeles County Museum of Art, Tacoma Art Museum, Zimmer Museum, Corning Museum of Glass, Carnegie Museum, Oakland Museum of Art, Santa Monica Museum of Art, Louisville Art Museum, Manhattan Beach Art Museum, and Orange County Museum of Art. His work has been commissioned by major public and private corporations, including Hewlett-Packard, Arco, American Airlines, Nestle, and the Scripps Research Institute. Over 160 articles have been published about Luebtow's work. Wrote Shanna Niece Dambrot for Patricia Correa Gallery. John Luebtow has consistently addressed a quadrum of fundamental sculptural issues throughout his career: line, form, space, and light. These are broad considerations, to be sure. To a certain extent, they are inherent to all visual art media. What is significant in Luebtow's fidelity to this set of issues is not only his tenacity in the unraveling of their mysterious laws, but also the extraordinarily wide range of approaches he has drawn to them. The mystery he pursues is the technical spiritual identity of his medium. He searches within the sovereign form of his subjects for the abstract evidence of the energetic rhythm of movement. Many thanks to the sponsors of this episode of Talking Out Your Glass. the Art Alliance for Contemporary Glass, and Craft in America. To find out more about our sponsors, visit talkingoutyourglass.com. Click on Episodes, Season 11, and John Luebtow. Heartfelt thank you to Kevin O'Malley from 361 Degrees Productions for use of his films in this podcast presentation. John Luebtow, thank you so much for joining me on Talking Out Your Glass podcast.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm impressed and proud to be a part of your program.
Thank you for coming on. I wanted to start out by asking you, you were born in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. How long has your studio been in LA, and what is your relationship with California?
I was born in Milwaukee, and that's where I went to high school, and that's where I kind of developed where I would end up. I mean, when I was little, I could always draw. Okay, so what happened is I thought everybody could always draw. So when I went to kindergarten, and I realized, wait a minute, nobody else can do this, or very few other people. So I realized at that point that something else was different. And so the drawing has always been there. I could draw almost photographically by 5. So it was just a gift. I have 2 gifts that evolved from that time period. One was the gift of art, drawing, being able to make things three-dimensionally too. I could take a piece of clay and form it into what I saw. So I had those 2 natural talents, and then I had an athletic ability, okay, which was another gift, and that's what got me through college and athletic scholarships and enabled me to get an education because we grew up in a ghetto, and it was the best place to grow up. So I'm not everybody says that, but I loved it. We had the best time. And born in 1944, in the 40s and 50s, we didn't have any communication. So there was no way to know what the rest of the world was like. So this was our world. So it's not a negative thing, it's a totally positive thing. So anyway, so that's where the drawing, the art, and then the athletic ability for my future
What
came.
were your sports? What did you specialize
Football,
in?
wrestling, and track. My
Wow.
college scholarships were and in football, and that was my goal. As a little kid, I wanted to be a Green Bay Packer. Okay, and so I just followed that because I had an ability, and it was there, and I loved it. We just loved it. You know.
You said the pencil is the application of thought to the paper. What is your background or training in drawing?
Actually, I didn't have any. I mean, I did it because number 2 pencils were free, basically. I mean, you could get them anywhere, and paper and praying watercolors also, the little praying watercolor set. So I was able to have 2 means of expressing myself with the pencil and then with praying watercolors. So the I didn't do any drawing, in any classes. I was allowed to take a class in high school as a senior, and that's that was a regular art class. And then I didn't do any drawing until I got to college, but I always had an ability to do it. I did take engineering drafting drawing in high school because they had that in our high school. And I loved that because everything was pencils and rulers and, figuring everything out and just making it look nice mechanically. And the freedom with the pen was always there. I could almost freehand draw what the engineering drawings were. So that was my basically the background because I said there was no formal background. There was an art school in Milwaukee, the Leighton Art School that my teachers wanted me to go to, but it cost money and we didn't have the money. So I didn't go. So all I did in my drawing was just drawing what I saw and what I liked.
So, how and why were you inspired by Friedrich Froebel, and who are some of the successful artists who followed his teachings?
Coincidentally, that evolved from my kindergarten experiences in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. The first kindergarten in the United States was in Watertown, Wisconsin in 1854. And that's only 20 miles from Milwaukee. That system spread throughout the United States, and Froebel's system spread throughout the world, uh, especially strongly up until the 1920s and 30s. That was the educational system. I don't think you can go in any country in the world and say kindergarten, and everybody knows what it is. So Froebel developed kindergarten. His book, Education of Man in 1826, defines that whole program and sets up his philosophy of his 20 gifts and occupations. And those are the things that we were taught. I also did a lecture, and there's some books on this. If anybody wants to look it up, one book is Norman Brosterman's Inventing Kindergarten, and it'll define the whole program, and it connects it to the contemporary artists of the time too. So that began, as I said, in Wisconsin, and we were taught those things. So I was subliminally programmed into using geometric forms and the point to line to plane concept, and paper weaving, or you made little doilies or whatever you want by weaving strips of paper. That's all Froebel. And so that just introduced me to it, and I had no idea what it really was until I, went into got into graduate degrees in college. So and that was blew me away to find out, oh my God, I was doing something that influenced the Bauhaus. The Bauhaus philosophy, the introductory Bauhaus course was Froebel's course, and Joseph Itten taught it, and it was called the Vorkers course. And that's where all of the famous artists did this. I mean, all of the Bauhaus teachers and artists, uh, were there. Kandinsky, Paul Klee, and the thing is, Joseph Albers, all of those people were kindergarten teachers in Germany.
Hmm. I
And
didn't
so
know that.
it blew me away. But art historians have lost that. There's a book called The Black Swan, and Froebel is the black swan of the art history world. Okay, people deny his existence because they want the artists to be the profound philosophical inventors of this concept. And Norman Brosterman traces it perfectly. I have an hour-long lecture on craft in America on Froebel that traces the whole evolution of the idea too. So it was just coincidental. I was born 20 miles from where it was introduced into the United States, and it was introduced into the Wisconsin educational system and throughout the United States by the 1870s. So, as I say, there is hardly an artist uh, that didn't take kindergarten, okay, and that weren't influenced by by his teachings.
So, what did you learn about life from Froebel?
Froebel taught me that the word itself, kindergarten, the child or the human mind of the child or adults is ours. And as kinders, the garden is the place where the mind is. The garden is the mind. So it's the mind, the child's mind, the kindergarten, where things are planted and life grows. You begin to understand by watching your garden and creating your garden. And when I saw that connection, because I'd used the word, you know, I didn't know what it meant, you know, until I, I didn't ever translated it. And I could speak. Some of my family were German, so but I never put the two together. I never put kinder child's garden, and that's what I learned is that the mind is the child's garden.
John, you work in glass, steel, water, and light. How do those elements come together in your work?
I've selected materials that will last without having to go back and repair. I mean, that's just a little funky thing I learned because when I started welding and building art projects that went outside, and then you'd see them deteriorating and rusting, and you have to go back and fix them. So my materials were ceramics, okay, uh, uh, glass, stainless steel only then, and aluminum. Okay. Water was the incorporation of one of the senses into my work. So basically, those materials deal with the senses. How do I experience the world through sound, through touch, texture, through sight, through taste? All of those things come from those words, uh, and uh, and from the materials. I liked all materials. I did stone sculpture. It was just too meticulously slow, way too slow. And when I look at any of the Renaissance artists, saw Michelangelo's David, and I said, that was out of one block. Give me a break. I mean, the time that it took to do stonework was not for me. So clay I loved because clay was quick, okay, and manipulable, and then you could fire it into a permanent product. The materials were just things I saw and used, basically. Okay, so it's not that I selected them deliberately, except for the permanent materials, uh, clay, stainless, and marble. And if I needed stone, it would, like for some of the fountain projects, and I mean that was incorporated by technicians. I designed everything, and then they would build the fountain. And water for me uh, is one of the essence of philosophical essences of life, because water moves through and around everything and encompasses it and doesn't change it. It becomes a part of it. Water becomes a part of everything, because if it's a container, if it's a surface flowing, or if it's a reflective surface, and water is liquid glass.
You have a lot of different projects or tasks going on at one time. Is that a picture of how your mind works best?
In the studio, I'll be drawing, and then I'll be welding, and if I have a project, uh, I'm designing, building, fabricating the steel for the project, uh, fabricating the glass, taping and painting. I'm taping and sandblasting the glass. So all of these different techniques, I can move from one to the other. Okay. So and that's it's just the way I am. I'm kind of like I'm ADD. Is that what you call it? Uh,
Yeah.
I'm yeah. So I'm all over the place all the time, and but I'm always focused on those things at the same time, and trying to solve all of those problems. And that's just for me. That's the fun of it. The never a boring moment. Okay, never do I have to just focus long times on one thing, because they're all going on at one time, especially when you're doing large projects. You know, so you got meetings just by themselves. You got, as I said, the steel fabrication, the glass, the bending, the taping, the just driving to the fabricator, picking the crates up in trucks, and figuring the whole thing out that way. It's all part of my mind rolling all those things and having fun doing them. Basically, I'm still in kindergarten, and I'm with Froebel and the concept of play, because that's what the whole educational system of his was based on, play. And so that for me is I've been able to play for now 82 years.
We'll return to John Luebtow in just a moment. This episode of Talking Out Your Glass is sponsored by Craft in America. Craft in America is a Los Angeles-based nonprofit arts organization founded in 2004 with the mission to promote and advance original handcrafted work through programs in all media. The Peabody Award-winning, Emmy-nominated Craft in America documentary series first aired nationally on PBS in 2007 and has produced over 35 hour-long episodes to date. These programs are filled with artists, techniques, and stories from diverse cultures, blending history with living practice. For more information, visit craftinamerica.org. This episode of Talking Out Your Glass is sponsored by the Art Alliance for Contemporary Glass. AACG is a leading resource for glass collectors, artists, gallerists, museum personnel, educators, and others on all things related to glass art. Its mission is to further the development and appreciation of art made from glass. It also provides a place for the glass community to have robust conversation around glass art through its weekly virtual programs and provides grants and scholarships. Membership gives glass lovers access to many members-only benefits. For more information and to become a member, visit aacgglass.org. For free ways to support Talking Out Your Glass podcast, please make sure you're subscribed to our new YouTube channel, Instagram, and Facebook. Or to make a one-time donation, go to talkingoutyourglass.com and click on Donate. Help support the continued documentation of glass and glass artists. And now, we return to John Luebtow. You earned a master's in ceramics and then traveled to Europe. Tell us about your experiences working for Delft and Leerdam. How did those experiences lure you into glass?
I just have to go back a little bit. When I was in college at Cal Lutheran, uh, I had an art professor who was a Dutch professor. He had come over from the Netherlands, and he had experienced uh, the Nazis and Hitler, and he had made connections in Europe while he lived there as a well-known artist, and so he had connections with some of the factories which would accept guest artists. Okay, and his area was ceramics, and he had a connection at De Porceleinen Fles, the Delft Dutch ceramics company. After World War II, since everything was bombed and destroyed, the Delft company built an architectural ceramics department because the government was subsidizing the arts, and every building had to have a percentage for the arts. So Delft built this whole afdeling or department to deal with architectural commissions, large commissions. So I was offered a position to come as a guest artist for 6 months, and and I took it, obviously. But I had was in graduate school at the time, and the graduate school really helped me because that got me a master's in ceramics, which is what the company was. And so the director, Herr Geluch, you know, loved that part, because I was academically qualified as well as aesthetically qualified. So I went to Holland, and I started working, and we got there. I had a son and my first wife there, and I took everybody, and I look back today and say, boy, what did I do? Well, it was crazy, but it's an apartment, and I just focused on working because I could come and go and do what I wanted. I had to do work for them, so I did some large projects for them. One of them, my first one, was for with David Hayes, a New York artist. He had received the commission from the Rockefellers for this large ceramic sculpture at Elmira College, and so I built that, and there's I have pictures of it on websites and things. So we built that, and that was 8 by 16 feet, and with two sides, so like 4 feet thick. And so that was my introduction into the large architectural ceramics things, which is really what I wanted to do. I wanted to do big stuff. So at the same time, we were working collaboratively with Leerdam Glass. And Leerdam Glass was the largest glass company in the Netherlands. And they had a program which they invited glass artists from around the world. And they invited Marvin Lepofsky. So I met Marvin there because the Delft and Leerdam, did collaborative exhibitions in Amsterdam, and Marvin and I had an exhibition in Amsterdam together. That was the first time we met, and I had been to the Leerdam factory, and I just loved the concept of glass, but I didn't know the artistic perspective. So when I saw Marvin's work and we talked, I thought, wait a minute, this is so much better than clay. I got to figure this out. Okay. Uh, so when I came back to America, I got another master's at UCLA in glass, and then I was off and running and into a different world. I still do ceramics. I've done ceramics all my life, but I do both. Okay, and I've taught for 42 years at a private high school, Harvard, which is became Harvard Westlake, and that was my income guaranteed because artists don't make money. Okay, and
What?
yeah, well, I got really lucky, I'll tell you that, because I once I got into the architectural world, it just exploded, you know. And so I came back, I got that degree, so that was my connection with Leerdam and Delft and Glass and Marvin. Then I became a member of the Glass Art Society, and
Talk about the ideas that inspired you to build your first kiln.
building large ceramic murals in Delft. I wanted to do them in glass, and I couldn't figure out, since I had a degree in glass, but it was blowing glass. So it's little kind of functional wear and you know kind of geometric forms, and I those are the things I focused on, but they were small, and I kept saying, how can I make this big? And then I started pursuing different ways of doing large glass stuff. And what I came upon was just bending, slumping, or kiln forming float glass. And then eventually Bullseye came about, and other ceramics companies, I mean other glass companies supplying glass materials. But my focus was on doing large stuff, and the only large single form sheets I could get was the float glass sheets. So I started looking around, and I said, okay, I got to build this kiln. And I built the first one was 4 feet by 4 feet by 10 feet. And I made one of my first commissions for Cooper Carey and Associates in Atlanta, Georgia, with that kiln. And then I thought, I can only do these 4 feet wide. It's got to be bigger. Okay. So I designed one 4 feet high, 10 feet wide, and 14 feet deep. So I thought, yeah, I'm going to build this. Uh, I've never, if I had an idea, I just figured out I can do this, and I figured out how to do it. I mean, I could always weld because I was brought up in the construction trades, so I could always fabricate stuff. And then I knew people in the engineering industry that could help me design the technical part with the computers to run the programs. All the kilns at that time available were smaller, of course, and they were electric. I didn't want to use electric because I had understood one of the qualities of annealing is a slow process of cooling. And if you have these large sheets of glass and the cooling process in this large kiln of electric elements would just be incredibly difficult. And I didn't even want to begin to attack that. But I had built ceramic gas kilns, and especially in Europe, we had large kilns. And so I just drew up the designs, and I built it. Uh, if you want to build one, it's on my website. You can just go to the kiln part. It shows how to build it. But I use uh, I use now a forklift to lift it and close it. At that time, I had a huge crane system that I had gotten from a Navy surplus that was massive. And I got it for a couple $100 because it was surplus. I mean, and so I bought that and I put that together, and that was the first way I raised and lowered my kiln. And then I moved it from that studio site and out to my new one, and then I did everything with designed a new forklift lifting system. I had a friend named Dave Burnett who was a masterful engineer. He did the gas furnaces for Kellogg's and Post and coffee companies. So he knew exactly how to control the temperature. These were ambient, low temperatures, but it was irrelevant. You could take that same system and run it up to 2000 degrees. Okay. And then there would be no more cornflakes, but that would be okay. So anyway, so he helped me design uh, a system to do this. And, he knew the factory parts to buy, and I knew how to put them all together. And so I built the kiln. That's basically what it was.
What were some of the primary challenges of building the equipment you needed to realize your ideas? Was it
Well,
hard to find the supplies to
no,
do
the
that?
supplies were industrial. So, I mean, these were furnace parts that iron and steel melting companies used, giant burners, forced air burners and burner systems. And we figured out a system that would be adequate in size to use for the glass bending. And the beauty of it is with gas, the system we designed blows hot air. So when the hot air is coming out of the flame tube with between the mixture of the gas in the air through an actuator valve, you can control the temperature. So if I want 150 degrees, I could have it. If I want 2000 degrees, I could have it. So that was the beauty, but that was also a necessary part in cooling adequately these large sheets because it was circulating air. So what the circulating of the air does is it allows me to control the temperature all the way through the kiln. And with the glass being bent over molds, it allowed that air to circulate on all sides of the glass, and the blowing air, which was got starts at the bending was finished. Bending for those large parts is finished about 1350 degrees, and then you cool it. So the important part is the cooling, and that's what takes the time, and that's where the gas for me and the circulating of the hot air is totally advantageous. You can do it quicker, and you can do it more efficiently, and you don't have to worry about hot spots. And so I figured that out. But when I started, of course, I blew a few pieces up uh, because I, didn't understand exactly the temperature controls that I needed to establish, and the firing uh, chart parameters. Yeah, so the technical part, as I said, we figured it out by trial and error, but with the expertise of some people in the industry. And everything was available, but it just hadn't been adapted on my smaller scale. Okay. And actually the furnaces that are made at Pilkington and at Pittsburgh and all the companies around the world, they're gas furnaces. All that float glass is made with gas furnaces, and because they can control the temperature. And those glass forming furnaces are, some of them are a half a mile long because they start liquid and then they float the glass and then they create the thickness that they want over time. And then it's all annealed and cooled. And it's a quick process. You'll see it, you stand at one end, it's liquid, you come out at the other end, and they're just rolling these big sheets out. And it's like, uh, anyway, so that technique, that industrial technique, is what we used.
In researching you for this interview, I saw you taping off elaborate designs for blasting by hand. How were they still so perfect?
Repetition and being old. It's like seriously, it's
I don't
it's
think
like,
that's it.
yeah, you just do it and you start doing it. And I mean, I have really good eye-hand coordination, and I always have had, and that's what actually helped me in athletics too. So if I see something, I can pretty much do it. Uh, and it seriously was just starting and looking at it and saying, I started by measuring, which was, give me a break. I said, this is going to take me 5 years to do one piece. Okay. And then I thought, wait a minute, I can just get these close enough that they look equal. And if you take a ruler and you measure them, they may be a little bit off, but visually, there's big shit. You never see that little bit, so it all looks, like it looks perfect. Yeah.
Lois Lambert Gallery in Santa
Oh
Monica.
yeah. Yeah.
She held a retrospective of your work covering the years from 1972 to 2023, 50
Yeah.
years of your work in glass. Talk
Yeah.
about your personal sculpture featuring American flag imagery, such as Ode to the Twin Towers, which was on view at that show. There's
Yeah.
also Ode to Congress and Hung Out to Dry. Talk about
Yeah.
that body of work.
Ever since I've grown up, I mean, as a little child, I saw the incongruities in the world. Okay. And I began to know once I got into high school and that I I saw the world and what a messed up place it was. I mean, we had just gotten out of the war, World War II, and Korea was and the Sputnik, and we did air raids. Where you the siren in Milwaukee blew, every school went down into air raid shelters underground. So those things I never forgot, obviously. And my work, that work is trying to express what I feel about the whole world. And especially even, I mean, today it's worse than ever. The
Yes, it
the
is.
poor. Okay. It's just, and it's blindly followed by people that I just can't understand. So my concept was the tormented flags or the bent flags were to express that feeling of frustration, anger, and fear, and answering questions or searching for the answers to the questions is why are we here? Where are we going? And what are we doing to get where we are? What have we done to get where we are? And I was profoundly interested by the poetry of Langston Hughes. And if anybody gets anything out of this, read Langston Hughes. And there was a specific poem that he used, which was called Harlem. And the title is "What Happens to a Dream Deferred." And that so profoundly has stuck with me uh, because that is what we're in every day. What are our dreams? What's happening to them? Where are they going and where are we being led? Ode to Congress gridlock, which was the American flag over a grid being slumped in. And there is no progress in Congress. It's all gridlocked. And then some of the other pieces, one of them was hung out to dry, where the flag was slumped over two wires. And that concept came from growing up as a child because we didn't have dryers and seeing my mom hang all the clothes out. And then I thought, boy, is our country being hung out to dry. 9/11 piece was the two flags slumped, one with 13 stripes, red and white, and then inside of that is a smaller, the blue and white area of 50 states. So the 13 colonies originating into the uh, into the 50 states, and then what happened to that connection? The early 13 colonies with the rights, and now what's happening? Where are we? I have no idea, and I surely don't
Yeah,
have any idea.
you couldn't have known how relevant that body of work would be in
Yeah,
2026.
yeah, and some of it started also a little bit more with Iran Contra and Reagan. Because wow, well, we've lived. Some of us have lived through that, and it's hard to understand any of that if you haven't. It's serious, It's because, and they're not taught any of that. The history doesn't teach us anything anymore, especially now with the change in the educational system by, the new administration. You know, take everything out that's offends anybody uh, that's white, and Okay, that's I'll be off for a week.
We'll go down that rabbit hole. Well, John, describe and discuss your torso series from the 1980s.
I've always, since I drew and I taught, I've always had nude models, okay, in classes, and and when I studied and took drawing classes in colleges, we always had nude models. So for me, that form and drawing that form, there's a linear quality to the contour of the female nude. And when you start working with those lines, you see that sensuous, singular linear quality, how that line expresses form and the form expresses feeling. So that when I started doing the drawings of the female nude, which evolved from my studies of in college, I said, and in my life in drawing, uh, I started bending. I created the female nude. It's in ceramic sculptures, and use those to bend glass over. And the forms that came out, the glass forms, when I used them, uh, I would see the how the bend line on the side, the contour lines, were sensuous, and created uh, a visual acuity to connection of feeling. And I just started working with that line. I took that line and I made that a singular line, and I transferred that to sculpture, to building molds that would give me that singular line. And you can, there's many talks on this, and Craft in America, a whole series of talks on it. So you can actually see it. And if you go to my website, you can see that origin of imagery there. So the female nude was extremely important. It always has been. And that's actually where taking that physical line from a physical being and transferring that into sculpture, everything became abstract eventually. And then the Froebel thing connected, and all those geometric shapes came together with the linear lines, and I just started making things. Who knows why? It was just like, oh, I like this. That's just what it was. This is fun. I'm playing, and I can build these things, and I can make some things that are beautiful. So my work was contrasted between that work of beauty, okay, the abstract and the female nude, to that work of struggle and frustration in the world and the anger that's present. So I had those two mental states going on back and forth all the time.
What were your goals for your linear form wall series?
Just to take that line and to introduce it into uh, another form. I realized I could had it three-dimensionally. How would I apply it to another surface? So I began fabricating pieces are designing pieces that I could build that would hang on a wall. That's basically what it is. But it's taking that same concept of line. And so then I also integrated ceramic and stainless steel and different kinds of glass into those wall pieces, bringing the past experiences together. So it was kind of an area which I could collectively culminate in a form those previous experiences with the materials.
Tell us about your work for Cole Center Lobby, created in 1985. How was movement conveyed in that commission?
That that piece was uh, all of the projects that we got or I got were done in competitions, or my work was selected. So there were from 5 to 10 artists we all did we all did drawings and then did maquettes. They had a lobby they needed to do, okay, an entrance lobby, and so you came in from the main entrance and you walked through to the elevators. There were two lobbies. The other side had another two other artists, friends of mine, that did something different. And so I just, it just came. I mean, I just looked at it and said, what do I want to do here? I want to make things grow like a forest out of the floor so you could walk through them and you could partake. You could touch them, you could see them, you could feel them as you walked through. And I just looked at that as a forest of glass shapes, and it also allowed me to bring in my little Froebel geometric forms and all of that, of those ideas. And so it was just kind of like I played. I got to play, and I got the job. It was like the lobby was 10 feet deep, 25 feet wide, and 12 feet tall, and I designed a stainless steel roof on it, ceiling, I mean, so that when you walked in, you looked up and everything was below was above. And so, you had a total environmental experience that you could stand and look in any place, and every place you saw would be different. So basically, it was to create a actual physical, technical, visual form to walk through. Okay.
What were the goals and challenges of Inveneer, which you created in 1996?
Yeah. That was one of the most fun and best projects and the biggest. I mean, it ends up being 60 feet wide and 12 feet tall. And that came about through a competition. There was the head of the Scripps Institute at the time, Dr. Bears, was building this new building for the Arnold and Mabel Beckman family. They were the creator of Beckman Instruments. They donated the money to build this Arnold and Mabel Beckman Scripps Research Institute. So they had the architects working. The building was designed and being put up, and Dr. Beers wanted a wall of separation in the main lobby for a silence area for students to sit and meditate and study and do whatever they wanted to do. And then there was a larger area. So the architects came up with a glass block wall. Okay. And Dr. Beers looked at that. I got to know him very well. Okay. And so he said, I saw that and he said, boring. he said, so I just started looking for artists. And Betsy Lane was one of the consultants in San Diego. And he went to her and she presented artists, as did other consultants. And he saw a project I did for Arco Towers downtown, which was a wall, a glass formed wall that was about 12 feet high and 20 feet wide. And it obfuscated and blocked the entrance to the CEO floor. So you would enter in, sit in front of, you'd enter in you to the desk, the security desk, and you couldn't see anything except, irregular kind of shapes behind the wall. He saw that. And so we went to visit that site at Arco. And he said, once I saw that site, he said, once I saw that piece, he said, I knew that John was the person to do the piece. That was that was kind of emotional for me because of the way he presented it to me. I mean, with a phone call. And he said, we discussed this over the phone. He says, once I saw the Arco piece, he said, I knew you were for us. And so that's how that came about. And the shapes were the Morey pattern geometric shapes, which is what he liked. But when we walked by, everything was moving and undulating. And the Scripps piece, I think is I think is that and the held fountain are the two best pieces. But the Script piece, which is not really open to the public, and that's too bad. But as when I revisited it, it's like I just don't know how I did it. I looked at that and I thought, what did you come up with that, and how did you do it? And that's a water piece. So what happens is he wanted water in the piece too. So he wanted the sound of the water echoing through this five-story atrium. And so what I did is I designed that piece to be on the plinth, and underneath it is the waterwork, which flows over a weir, and you get this subtle trickling little sound that's really peaceful and restful. So that was one of the things you said. He said, I want water in it. So, I just had to figure out designs and do it. And I actually don't know where the ideas come from. I mean, I have no idea. I'm serious. Because I start working on something, I see a project, I visit the project, I get a feeling of what, I try to get an intuitive feeling of what's there, and and then I just start drawing and trying to, figure out ways to solve the problem. And so eventually, I end up where I end up. But each of us has its commissions have their technical environments that are limiting, and those are what you have to work with. So they're free for me to do what I want, but uh, I just have to work within those parameters, which is I've always loved. It's fine because it's kind of restricting. I did this huge fountain, my first huge one in San Francisco on Mission Street, and it's got 25 sheets of glass in it with water and sound, and that was in 88, 1988. It's still there. It's on First and Mission on a roof floor where there's a garden area. So the connection with water I've always liked because, as I said earlier, that it's water is liquid glass.
What challenges does working with water introduce?
Well, they're mostly uh, technical construction problems. Okay. Uh, and I just have to make sure I hire or work with the best technicians. Okay. And we talk about what I want to do, and then I draw it up and design it, and then we discuss the solution to the problem. So the one thing water does is you can't have it flowing over the surface and then shut the water off because everything will be calcium deposits, chemical deposits. Everything turns white. And so the
Right.
water keeps everything colored, keeps it the color of the material. Uh, and that's a problem. Uh, so I try to do those kind of I try to do all my projects now, having the glass used as a reflecting pool or so that it integrates with I mean the water used as a reflecting pool uh, and integrates with the glass and under it and around it and helps repeat the images and creates the sound. But to use it with glass, like the fountain in San Francisco, that fountain is white. Okay. And there are some there is one chemical that'll take it off, you know, and but it's you know we're dealing with environmental problems, so and it can be handled carefully, but nobody's going to do that nowadays.
Yeah.
So that's
Tell
the only one I had a problem with.
tell us about the fountain you created in 2008, Ventus Vitae. It's
Yeah,
50 feet, 55 feet long.
yeah, yeah. That came about through a competition again. There were 12 artists. Zillary Twill was the art consultant. She presented 12 artists to the Held family, Harold Held, and they owned a series of office complexes, and they wanted to do a water piece in their and as an entrance to their building from 1880 Century Park East. So they looked at 12 artists, and then they selected 5 artists, and then we all did presentations and models. And one of the two problems came with that. One is they wanted water, okay, which wasn't a problem. It was just an integrated, thing, element. And then the other was that building had to have that fountain area had to have a vent for the underground parking lot in it. So you couldn't build a you had to create a space and a visual solution to that problem. And I did, and it worked really well. And you can't even see where the vent is a part of the piece, part of the design. It's a vent, but they were really pleased, and obviously then they commissioned me to do the project. And that just started from a flat concrete area with a vent in it, you know. a 8 by 10 foot vent, and it comes up out of the parking lot.
Describe the glasswork for that one. Was that a big challenge?
Over the years, I developed sources for materials, and I used the 1 inch thick float glass. And now I have suppliers that get it. It has to come from Europe because America doesn't make it anymore. They quit making it in the 80s because it's not a highly profitable material because it's used by designers and people, building like tables and functional stuff. So it's not a big market. Anyway, we get it from Europe, either France or Italy, and shipped in container cars. And then I designed the forms. So I use foam core templates. I create the whole project life size in the studio, and then figure out what the shapes are from the little drawings and the maquettes and the models. Those templates are sent to my fabricator. He cuts those shapes, creates them up, and then sends them. And I just truck them back to the studio, and I built boom crane systems, and I unload them with my forklift, and then we just put them in the kiln and bend them, and then start sandblasting and taping. So it's the process begins from a small scale drawing, 1 inch to 1 foot. Okay. And then from that, the model is built. So yeah, we have the three-dimensional form, which presents the idea exactly as it's going to be finished. Because the one thing you don't want is to change anything when you're building it, because the first thing the developer is going to do, that's not what I'm paying for. So everything is followed from the drawing to the maquette. And in the maquette is the total detail of the form, all of the sandblasting shapes and everything. And those, I just figure those out when I have the little pieces of glass before me and looking at them and then, drawing. And it's just, they evolve, to keep the forms and the lines and the eyes visually moving through the piece. So that's just, so yeah, that's the way it works.
Isn't there a film called Ventus Vitae Reinstalled?
Yeah, because what happened is, oh yeah, they had a electrical problem, and you don't want to have an electrical problem in water. Okay, so what had happened was, uh, uh, when they installed all the electrical lighting, they had not used. Somebody had made connectors out of iron, not stainless steel. So those connectors dissolved. So they had to take all the glass out. Okay, so we had to take all the glass out, recreate it, store it, and then they had to redo the electrical. And then they resealed it again and everything. And so there's never been a problem since then. But it was just a funny little thing that caused a massive amount of work. But it was work that I could do. But yeah, so we had to take it all down and then take it out to the studio and store it and then bring it all back.
Tell us about Sapere Aude, created at Harvard Westlake School in 2013.
Yeah, that piece is a commemorative piece for the headmaster Tom Hudnut, and he had for his 25 years of service. We became best of friends over the 25 years because I had started there in 71. He came in, I think it was 86, about 86. So, and I was the department chairman and a curriculum board person. And, I worked with the trustees. So I got to know him very well. And he was a fly fisherman. That's a key to the whole design of the project. And we went fishing together. We became best of friends, and I see him, whenever I can down in Los Angeles. So uh, I talk to him regularly. But what the piece was to commemorate him. And so, as I said, it started from this linear form that was created by the fly line that goes up and around and drops down into the creek. Okay, so it's that one line created the source of the whole idea. And then from that, I just started making shapes and things that worked with it, and it it's just evolved that way. Sapere aude means dare to know. He's a brilliant. He wrote a book in French. I mean, not only could he speak multi languages, okay, I mean, he could write them. I mean, that's, and but he was a real strong leader too, and just knowledgeable and gentle and kind, but you never got anything by him. And I know I just love the man, and I had such great respect for him. And you know, actually, one of the board members, Michael Siegel, who I had as a student, coincidentally at Harvard, commissioned the piece. And because he and Tom were best of friends, and he and Tom and I were best of friends. And he said, I want to do something for you, Tom. And he said, so we talked about it. And Michael knew about my work before. He had some of my work in his collection, and even some of the flag stuff. We were good friends. So it just evolved through that. So sapere aude, dare to know, the search for knowledge. Sapere aude, yeah,
Okay.
I that's
Superiore.
okay, Speri Audi. And I choose Latin titles so that people will think I'm smart. Okay.
It works.
I have to research them and look them up, and I have a professor friend of mine who teaches Latin, and I always say, well, how do I do this?
What do you think makes public art successful?
Public art, I'll go to my Latin origins, comes from the word populus, which means the people. And so for me, uh, public art is meant to serve the people, uh, to bring them a new visual experience, uh, to help make them possibly experience something positive in life, and just to bring uh, uh, a pleasurable experience to the world visually. So I never use any of the flag work, okay, or the social comment stuff. Uh, so so basically, what it is just, you know, creating something that will alter an environment in a positive way, and hoping to bring a moment of comfort and peace and quiet and joy to people who see it and pass it by. The fountain is an interesting one because I created that plinth there you can sit around it. And when I visit the site sometimes, there are people sitting around it and, talking. And there's also benches in front of it. And it's really pleasant to see that, because they're experiencing something different than the office and the complex that the cubicle that they're boxed into. So it's just, as I said, to alter in a positive way the visual environment for the populace.
You were known to bend 1 inch sheet glass, a signature technical ability which garnered you the unparalleled esteem of some of your colleagues. Talk about some of your technical innovations.
Well, they were just brought upon by the need to create a form. No, uh, I started with thinner glass, okay, and the problems that happened were they were not structurally there, and I went to 3/4 inch, which was commercially available everywhere, and that I found was not good enough either. And then I found the inch, and the difference in the strength and the durability and the quality of the material uh, in an environment from 3/4 to 1 inch is tenfold. It's so I can walk across those sheets, and you'll see if you go to any of the videos where I'm taping, I'm standing on them. Okay, it's just the solidity of that material, the dependency upon it, and the ability for it to be stable structurally. The big fountain I had in San Francisco went through the 7-point earthquake. And when that happened, I was afraid to answer the phone in LA. I thought, oh my God, what has happened? you know, and so nothing happened. The way we engineered it and built it and put it in, there was no problems. And so things like that. And actually, I dropped a piece 3 feet off of the table that had been bent. That's a long story, and it bounced on the floor and didn't break or chip or crack. And I was laying under this piece because it was a freaky thing. I was alone late at night, and I just said, "Oh, I can do this," and and I started to do it, and the table moved, and I lost the piece, and it started coming down on me, and I thought, "I'm going to be cut in half," you know, but it bounced, and I thought, I mean, it's little incidents like that that show that it's a good material, you know. Yeah.
So, talk about the quality glass has that no other materials do and how you exploited those.
Yeah, any it's a visual thing too, first of all. Okay, once I saw the difference between the ceramic I've been working in it with the porcelain of Fles and Delft and the visual quality of the glass at Leerdam, and I saw transparency, okay, which no sculptural material has transparency, okay, and I saw translucency, I saw light refraction in a different way, and I saw light reflections in a different way. And so all of these materials just really sucked me in. And I just started just looking at it. Anybody, and anybody who looks at a piece of glass, even a cup, you take a glass and you look at it and you look through it and you see the world changes, you know? So it's just the visual changes that material introduced me to just surpassed anything that I'd been working in because I'd been working in clay, stone, steel, stone. As I said, stone, clay, stone, steel, and so those materials are just they're reflective only. I mean, reflective in the sense that you see what you get, and there's no other interaction with it. It's the glass allows you to interact in so many different ways. So that's really got me sucked in and at Leerdam when in 1969, 70. So that's where it started. Seduction, maybe that's a good word. It's
Yes,
seductive.
glass is good at that.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
So, what are you working on now, John, and what's coming up for you in 2026?
Well, I've been through a few physical things, being 82. So they have altered my life, okay, greatly. I mean, I'm just getting back to being what I was in 76 when I did so it's just a couple cancers and broken femur and falling off a roof and all of these things. Yeah.
How did you do that? How'd you fall off the roof?
But my wife and I have my wife had acquired commercial property in Glendale in the 70s, 80s, and then we met in the about 86, and we've been together 40 years. And so,
Wow.
uh,
Was
so
did you go on a blind date?
yes,
I,
yes, that
I
was
thought I read it's tell
that's a
us about
hilarious
how
story.
you met her.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's a hilarious story. It's a
Tell
pretty
it.
long, so, uh, 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 but anyway, yeah, we met on a blind date. And so with that, we have the property. And I was we had to checking, we had an accident at the property. A car drove into the building and crushed the walls and everything. And so I was up on the roof checking slope line to see if any structural damage. And I came down and the ladder moved. And then, of course, I moved with it. And that was it. I broke the femur. But that's okay. I mean, that was 6 months ago, and the surgeon was amazing. Everything was amazing. I got to IC, the trauma ward at Huntington, Pasadena, at 11 in the morning, and he had me back together with steel leg by 8 o'clock.
You're the
And
bionic man now.
I was just, yeah, it's like, yeah, I carry a picture when I go through the airport, you know,
Yes.
an X-ray picture, you know.
Maybe time to start hiring somebody else to do that stuff.
Yeah, but it's the other problem is the cost of materials. It's just unbelievable. I mean, literally 10 times what I paid in the 70s and 80s. Easily 10 times. I mean, stainless. And now, especially with the tariffs, it's forbidden. I mean, you can't bid on the project because you don't know what it's going to cost. And you now the other problem is the legal world. Okay, I did a first project I did for Arco in was the wall, and that was in 89. A couple years later, they wanted me to do a 2,400 square foot ceiling for them, 40 by 60 feet in that same tower. And the contract for that first project was 2 pages. The contract 6 years later was 52 pages.
Wow.
It's whoa, you know, it's so and that all costs money, and so things like that have just, it takes away the desire, So I've been writing, and I did write a book. That's right. Okay, here it
Let's
is.
see. Oh, that's right. I love that book. You sent me one of those.
Yeah, yeah. So
Glass, A
it's on,
Lifetime of Creating.
it's on Amazon. So
Everyone should get that.
get the
It's
book, get the
amazing.
book quick. I need money. Anyway, so so I wrote that, and then I've been writing. I've been working on a Froebel book actually for about 25 years. Maybe I'll get the time to do that now. Uh, uh, so uh, so yeah. So I mean, the writing seems to be viable. Keeps my mind rolling and challenged to
How
do it.
would you describe the evolution of idea and form as it relates to your work? When I think about your early work, you started out blowing
Yeah.
forms and you've gone really through a whole progression. So how do you see that evolution of your own work in terms of idea and form?
Well, when I started blowing, we blew functional things, but I saw the shapes. I saw the spherical shapes that I could blow, and then I learned cold working, so I could cut those shapes and make them into sculptural forms. And then Ferro Frit was a company at the time that did glass spray paints because a lot the other paint companies, which I didn't know about anyway. Ferro Frit is an American company, and I was able to buy color from them to paint the glass, fire on color that would be permanent. So I took those geometric blown forms that I'd cut, polished, and then some of them colored, uh, and started building these small little 8 by 10 table pieces, pedestal pieces. And then as I looked at them, as I said, I want to do this 10 feet tall, you know, and I bent one small little arc about 10 inches for a piece that to be used in the gluing of the stable pieces. And I put that piece on its side and I saw that and I said, I got to make that 10 feet tall. So that changed from the blowing to the architectural size, but that also took away the blown forms and had me transfer to how do I get sheet glass to do that. So it went from the blowing to the I could have done blown forms, I mean like something like Dale does, Julie, and like by combining. And a lot of they're doing a lot of they're doing the blown forms by combining smaller pieces. I just wanted to see one singular form, 10 feet tall. And so that's how that started. So then I started building kilns. And then from the kilns, and just I got architectural commissions because nobody else was doing what I was doing. That was probably the key issue. So when I'd present my concepts at an architectural meeting, you know, everybody would say, "Oh, that's different." So, that had a lot to do with it. As I got jobs, I just kept getting jobs. I just kept building work and doing work and having fun. And actually, as I said, I was always playing. I was still in kindergarten, and I was still a child in my garden, playing and creating forms, fertilizing the mind and making it grow.
Do you have a favorite series or commission that you worked on?
Well, the two of them that I think are the scripts one, invenire, to invent. That was my Latin search word, to invent. And then Ventus Vitae, Winds of Life. Those two pieces, I think, for me. I did a huge piece for Florida, 25 foot tall, and for the Sheraton Ball Harbor lobby. And as the interesting thing I'm finding is corporations aren't interested in saving art. Okay, okay, that whole complex, the massive amount of buildings, everything was just blown up and rebuilt into new, 10 square blocks development down in Ball Harbor in Florida. And I said, I was I looked it up, and then the building wasn't there, and because I wanted to see what had happened. And wait a minute, there's nothing there. And then it showed the blowing up of the building and that they were now building a new complex. And so that piece just went into the rubble.
That's
I
really
did,
sad.
yeah, I did a piece for the Hollywood Roosevelt Hotel, which was the entrance piece. And David Hockney did the swimming pool. And that was, I met him there in 86. Uh, I went to visit that piece, and the building had sold. Okay, it was the original old Hollywood Roosevelt Hotel. And the first developers that I worked with had changed everything and really made it nice. And then another developer came in and just took everything out. And I went to look at my piece, and they got the stupidest window up there now. And it's like, are you serious? And
Is
nobody,
that's where you went on the blind date with your wife, isn't it?
that's right. Yeah,
I
that's right.
remember that.
So our friends, Gary and Vicky Tron at the time, uh, set this blind date up. And so we went to dinner, and then they said, well, let's go get a cocktail at the Hollywood Roosevelt. And I said, sure, okay. And I didn't put anything together, so we were walking in the building and up the lobby, I mean, up the stairway. And Goldie says, I know that artist's work. I saw it at the Brand Library last week. I really like it. And Vicky looks over at her and she says, that's John's piece. He made that. And the exhibition you saw at the Brand Library was his exhibition. So, that was our introduction. You know,
That's perfect.
we are 40 years later. Yeah.
Congratulations. That's
Yeah,
not easy. That's not
no,
easy.
no, no, that's for sure. We know that. So anyway, it's good. It's good.
Well, it
Yes,
must feel good to know so much of your work is in public and people can enjoy it.
the thing I've noticed about the way I think is once I've made something, okay, it's been done, and I want to move to the next thing. And that's always the way I've been as a, as a little boy, you know, learning new things and what else can I learn? So I've always had this incredible desire to acquire information, and a lot of it was technical information, you know, in my life, and that really helped me do everything because as growing up, I had to do plumbing, electrical. My dad was an electrician for the city, so I was able to learn these craft techniques or the build how to build something, and so I learned about materials, and that ADD deficit thing was a positive thing. And I think today all these kids are being destroyed by giving them drugs to counter that. You look at I mean Einstein. Look at a lot of the creative people. They're all wackos, you know. and they all had problems in education, you know. I mean, they were a lot of them were just considered Einstein was considered a moron, you know. And so it's a, and so do other Tesla. It's another one, you know. And so it's just I have an affinity to connecting to those kinds of thought processes. And I find that other people have had those too. And that, you know, I got a, one wild story when I was in the first grade. Well, I went to kindergarten. I went for one day. Okay. And I thought the kindergarten teacher started talking and doing stuff. At recess, I left. I walked a mile home and I wouldn't go back. So that problem was solved by having my mom taking me to another school and getting me in. And that teacher I agreed with.
This is kind of a weird question that's not on the list, but if you associated one song with your career or your work in glass, what would it be?
Bob Dylan songs. Okay. Oh, the times they are changing. Blowing in the wind. I mean, I mean, he grasped the essence of what we were all feeling and still feel, you know, 80 years later, you know,
Yeah.
and when, oh my God, yeah, when I heard those words, it's like, oh, wow, wait a minute. This guy's got it down, you know. So any of his songs, and actually some of Leonard Cohen's stuff too. And a lot of those kinds of thought process people, you know, they were thinkers, you know, and they always questioned reality and life. So but as I said, Dylan, and most of Bob Dylan stuff, you know.
If you were going to do one more really big glass commission, where would it be? Where's your dream location?
Oh, well, I saw somebody climb to the top of the Empire State Building yesterday. I read, maybe up there.
Thanks for tuning in to Talking Out Your Glass. Many thanks to our sponsors, Craft in America and the Art Alliance for Contemporary Glass. Stay tuned for more great episodes, including up-and-coming glass-blowing phenom Jack Spitzer. To find out more about this podcast, visit talkingoutyourglass.com, where you'll find all 11 seasons of the show, artist images, and more. Until next time, stay glassy.